Expanding your Amazon business into Germany comes with important VAT compliance rules you can't afford to overlook. In this video, we will break down the key VAT requirements you need to know, from registration and reporting to the different fulfillment options and how they impact your tax obligations in Germany. If you need help to stay compliant when selling in different marketplaces, reach out to SimplyVAT team. You will find the link below in the description.
Hello, Alex. I'm really happy to see you here today with me to talk about German VAT, the requirements Amazon sellers need to know about, and also how they could be compliant with all of those rules. But before we go into the topic today, could you first introduce yourself and also explain what SimplyVAT does in the Amazon space to help sellers succeed better?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me back on the channel. So my name is Alex Wyatt. I head up the commercial team at Simply VAT. And ultimately, Simply VAT is here to help e-commerce businesses with their VAT compliance as they start trading into new markets. So that covers the VAT registrations, the ongoing returns, any questions that people have, or audits or consultancy, anything like that. We're here to help.
That sounds good. And I always love making videos or these country specific videos with you because you're always able to go into full details about different cases and things sellers really need to pay attention to understand what rules are meant for them and which are not. So I'm really happy to do this video together with you today. I know you prepared some slides for us as well to kind of walk us through everything we need to know about the German VAT. So go ahead, share your screen, and we're ready to see what you have for us.
Awesome. Thank you. So, yeah, we're going to cover off everything that you need to know today about selling within Germany, specifically on Amazon, but I will maybe touch on if you're selling on your own website as well. But yeah, let's get started. So, we're just going to cover off what VAT stands for. That is value added tax. It is a tax that is added at every step of the supply chain, and it's ultimately there to collect revenue from end consumers. So, yeah, just keep that in mind that you're going to need to be making sure that VAT is always going to be talked about, whether you're selling on your own website or on a marketplace. Ultimately, VAT is not there to be a burden to VAT registered businesses, so you can always reclaim or offset the VAT on purchases or imports on your local VAT return. If you ever have any questions about that, feel free to drop them below in the comments, and I'm happy to answer. But let's get into it. So, with selling in Germany and selling, on Amazon, specifically in Europe, we're going to talk about multiple different fulfillment options. Amazon continuously expands their fulfillment options, and this is going to be really important to understand and how it relates to VAT and the obligations that you have as a seller. So, we're going to cover three different fulfillment options here. We have merchant fulfilled. So, in this case, the merchant is using a 3PL or their own warehouse to fulfill goods to the end consumers. We have the European Fulfillment Network. So this is where the merchant is selecting one country to dispatch goods from using Amazon FBA. And all sales are going to be made as distance sales from that country to customers across Europe. And then we have the pan-EU fulfillment. So this is where the merchant can choose between multiple countries to fulfill from. So they kind of multi-select different countries. And so we have Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Czech Republic, Poland, Sweden, Netherlands, Belgium, and Ireland is coming very soon in 2025. So there's quite a lot of countries to talk about. So we're going to cover some of these. The one thing I really wanted to highlight, and I know that Amazon loves to push Pan-EU for many sellers, and when people come and talk to me or talk to my colleagues at SimplyVAT, you don't necessarily always need to start out on Pan-EU, especially if Europe is a new market for you, you're just starting out. Your fulfillment settings are separate to your listing settings. So you can list your products on all the different markets, but fulfill only from maybe one or two or the countries that you want to be sending your goods from. So starting off with Pan-EU may not be for everyone. And it's best to test your products in the specific markets by maybe using the EFN network or maybe the merchant fulfilled using a 3PL, just to see what works for your business first before actually expanding into and committing to all those different countries and fulfilling from there. So just keep that in mind as a handy tip. So when we look at the fulfillment options, we're going to break it down in the country of dispatch and what those VAT obligations are. So starting with the EFN network, if say you're using EFN and you opt to send your goods from Germany, in this case, you're going to need a German VAT registration. And the reason for this is because you're holding your goods and dispatching from there. So you're making sales to end consumers, or the onward sale is what's really triggering that tax obligation there. If you're opting to use the Pan-EU, so say you're choosing multiple EU member states to fulfill your goods from, you're going to need a VAT registration in each country. So this is why I'm suggesting maybe don't start out on Pan-EU if that's not the right thing for you. If you want to start on Pan-EU, just keep in mind you'll need that VAT registration in every single member state that you are going to be using and shipping your goods from. And then for the merchant fulfillment network, this is really where we're going to be looking at the EU members, where the goods are going to be dispatched from. So if they're dispatched from an EU member state, so within the EU, and what's going to happen there, and say you're sending to a German customer, you're going to need to register in the country of dispatch, so where the goods are coming from. And then an OSS registration may be required in the case maybe if you are an EU established business selling cross-border, you may need an OSS registration in that case, or if you are selling on your own website and you're selling cross-border as well, an OSS registration may be required. In the case where the goods are coming from outside of the EU and they're going to a German customer, then we're going to have to look at the consignment value. So when we look at the consignment values, this is the total value of the goods being shipped together. And if the consignment value is less than 150 euros, you're going to be using Amazon's IOS number, so their import number, to clear the goods through customs. And you will not need any registration in this case other than to use Amazon's IOS number. If the goods are coming from outside the EU and the consignments are greater than 150 euros, typically the marketplace likes the merchant to become the importer of record to give a better buying and customer experience for the end consumers purchasing your products, so that they don't have any nasty surprises as goods clear through customs. There's no extra VAT or duties charged at that point. So just keep in mind that there's multiple different ways. I think the term is to skin a cat, but there's multiple different ways to sell into Germany, and it's all going to be dependent on where you're fulfilling your goods from and what those and the VAT obligations are going to link to that. So using Amazon FBA in Germany, ultimately, this is going to trigger a VAT registration in Germany. As I said, if you're making sales to the end consumers, that's what's making that tax obligation a thing. So you'll need a VAT registration from your very first sale if you're a non-EU business. And for EU businesses, you may need to follow your local guidance. If you're German established, you'll have a set threshold. If you're an EU established business, not in Germany, and holding goods in Germany, you will need a VAT registration right from the beginning as well. So it all depends on various different things there. So now if we look at the marketplace obligations within the EU. So this is who is ultimately taking the responsibility of collecting and remitting the taxes to the tax authorities. And let's use German in this case. So we're specifically going to look at non-EU established businesses. EU established businesses have slightly different obligations. We'll cover that shortly. So for non-EU businesses that are selling on Amazon and the goods are dispatched from within the EU, regardless of the member state, any of those transactions going to private individuals, the marketplace is going to take on that responsibility of collecting and remitting the VAT to the specific tax authorities that they're registered to. If the goods are dispatched from outside the EU and have a consignment value of less than 150 euros, as I just mentioned, you are going to use Amazon's IOS number in this case and use Amazon's IOS number on the parcel so that the goods clear through customs with fast release and there's no extra VAT or duties as the goods clear through the customs authorities. Amazon will then remit all of these sorts of transactions on their own domestic or IOS returns wherever it's applicable. Now, keep in mind that even though Amazon is going to take on the responsibility of collecting and remitting the taxes to the tax authorities, this does not mean that you as a seller do not have a VAT obligation. So keep in mind, as I said on the previous slide, depending on where your goods are, you may still have a VAT obligation in these instances to be VAT registered, and you just might not need to actually pay the taxes to the tax authorities as the ownership of that responsibility will be moved to Amazon. But you still have to declare any sales exempt of VAT. So a little bit of a nuance there, but keep that in mind. We got to go back to those other few slides where we just talked about who's, where your goods coming from, and that will dictate where your responsibility is. When we come to what the sellers are supposed to declare, so any sales made to VAT registered businesses within the EU, the marketplace does not have the obligation to collect the taxes in those instances. Additionally, if goods are dispatched from outside the UK, but the consignment value is coming into the from outside the EU, apologies, and the goods are actually going into a customer in the EU, and the consignment is above 150 euros. In this instance, the seller is also going to be responsible. Again, the marketplace likes when the seller is the merchant of record, the one that's importing the goods on behalf of the customer, and therefore you'll have to make sure that you're collecting and remitting the taxes on your own local VAT return. And finally, if you are an EU established business, any goods fulfilled from within the EU are going to be responsible. You are going to be responsible to collect and remit the taxes to the tax authorities. Currently, marketplaces do not have any obligation to collect and remit the taxes for EU established businesses, other than if they are being sent from outside the EU, going to customers inside the EU with a consignment value less than 150 euros. So there's only one time where the marketplace is going to take on the responsibility for EU established businesses. So keep that in mind, that maybe if you're an EU entity, you're also going to need a Union OS registration to cover any cross-border sales. So we're going to look at this flow chart here that kind of shows the different responsibility of these when a marketplace actually takes on the obligation of collecting and remitting the taxes for the end consumers. Or sorry, for this sellers. So the underlying supplier is the seller in this case, and they're actually going to be sending the goods to the EU customer. And what happens on the VAT return is the underlying supplier is going to declare the sale to the marketplace as an exempt of VAT B2B supply. Then what happens is the sale actually goes from Amazon to the end consumer. And that is where the taxable supply actually takes place. So even though you might see it come up as one sale made to a customer in Germany, what's actually happening from a kind of paper trail point of view is that there's two transactions happening, one between the seller and the marketplace, and then the second transaction is from the marketplace to the customer. And that's where the marketplace takes on the obligation to collect the taxes and pay that over to the tax authorities. And from a seller's point of view, you still need to declare these sales on your local VAT return. They're just going to be exempt of VAT. So essentially, there's always going to be an audit trail saying, there was a sale made to a marketplace, and then the marketplace made the end sale that was actually taxable to the end consumers. So I hope that helps kind of clarify the flow there. So when we look at selling in Germany, we have two different VAT rates. So if you watched one of our other videos on the UK, you would have seen that there's slightly different rates here. So first off, the standard rate in Germany is 19%. And the reduced rate is 7%. You'll notice that there is no zero rate here in Germany. That's because they don't have that applicable. So it's really interesting when you start looking at how your products, maybe you're selling food items, and those food items may vary depending on the country that you're selling in. So make sure that you're always getting those checked out as you start trading internationally, that even though a VAT rate might be reduced rated or zero rated in one country, it doesn't mean that it's going to be reduced or zero or standard rated in another country. So never assume what the VAT rates are going to be. For the most part, products in Germany are going to be standard rated. So again, if you need assistance, you can speak to a tax agent and they can help clarify those VAT rates for you. Otherwise, it's always best to assume the standard rate on your products. And then, if you could ever reduce rate them, then that's great. But otherwise, you don't come into any messy situations if you get audited from the tax authorities and have to pay back a load of money. That's the worst possible position that you can be in. Another thing to note here is that when you are selling on Amazon in Germany, you're going to want to make sure that you are including the VAT rate in your product prices that you're listing on Amazon.de. So make sure that you have a look at how you're calculating VAT and your margins. We have another video available on Orange Klik that you can check out where we talk about the varying VAT rates and how you can set your product prices. But ultimately, I just want to make sure that even though Amazon is responsible to collect the taxes on your behalf, they're collecting it from the product prices that you have set. So if you're not including that 19% in your product prices, then that can be impacting your margins massively. So keep that in mind as you're setting your prices. So importing into Germany. So this is quite important. There's a few different things here. So if you're importing into Germany, you're going to need an EU EORI number. This can be any EU country's EORI number. It does not have to be a German EORI number. For the EU, you only need one EU EORI number to import into the whole, any 27 of the member states. So it doesn't matter which country as long as you have that specific one. Now, non-EU businesses wanting to import into Germany directly may need an indirect representative to import their goods into the country. Now, an indirect representative is someone who is based within the EU who takes on the responsibility of the import VAT and duties of the non-EU supplier. So keep that in mind that we have seen a lot of companies get their goods stuck at customs because they don't have an indirect representative. So make sure if you are importing, speak to your freight forwarder to make sure that they can either assist you or use an indirect representative to help clear your goods through customs to make sure that there's no delays or your goods aren't getting stuck waiting at the border. Import VAT is going to be charged on the value of the goods cleared. So you're going to pay 19% most of the time on the goods clearing through customs. But keep in mind that as long as you're using your EU EORI number on your import documents, you're able to reclaim this or offset this on your local German VAT return. So make sure that you're keeping a hold of all of your customs documents, your C88s or your SAD documents to prove that you were the importer of record for those goods, and then we can offset the VAT on your VAT return. Perfect. Now, let's look at the registration process. So in Germany, it's currently taking up to 12 weeks to get a registration process. So keep that in mind as you start exploring your timeframes that when you want to be importing your goods, you'll want to make sure that you have your EU EORI number in order to import your goods and that you have your German registration in place by the time you start to make your first sales. So looking at the registration process, and what documents you need. So first off, you'll need to compile all the registration documents, obviously to get the VAT registration and some proof of trading. Maybe if you were already trading in Germany, or if you intend to start trading in Germany, all of these documents help get the VAT registration approved. Next, you're going to need to sign a power of attorney if you're using an agent, someone like us. And that power of attorney is going to allow us to work on your behalf or allow that tax agent to work on your behalf and communicate with the German tax authorities. Once all of these documents are compiled, you then send these off to the tax authorities, and that's when the 12-week starts. So keep in mind that that 12-week period is actually the processing period with the tax authorities and not in the preparation of the registration documents. When you get registered in Germany, you're going to get two different numbers. So the first one is, I'm sorry if you are German and I'm mispronouncing this, is your local Steuernummer. And this is going to be used to submit local VAT returns, so your returns locally in Germany. The second number that you're going to get is your international number, and this is going to be with the prefix DE. And that international number is typically where you're going to use on most of your invoices. So if you're supplying this number, typically Amazon wants to see that that international number with the DE prefix. If you are supplying invoices B2B or B2C, you're going to want to use that sort of number as well. But that Steuernummer is there to submit the local returns. So once you're registered, there's many different filing frequencies in Germany. We have monthly, quarterly, or annually. Now, everyone who gets registered in Germany typically starts on monthly filings. After about a year of trading, so really in about January, February time, the German tax authorities will assess your previous returns for the whole year. And then they may move you over to a lower filing frequency depending on the VAT amount that you've declared over the last year. So unfortunately, it's not something that we can request, but the tax authorities will assign that to you, and that will move you up or down in filing frequencies. There's always going to be an annual summary return due. So if you have a monthly filing, you will also file an annual summary return at the end of the year, and that compiles all of the sales across the year. And so you submit that to the tax authorities. So what you're going to be declaring is any sales made on a marketplace B2C, and those are going to be exempt of VAT for non-EU sellers, of course. And then we have sales made that are subject to VAT. So this is your own website transactions, B2B transactions, or if you are an EU seller, you're going to want to make sure that you are declaring all of these on that German return. And then you can reclaim. So you can reclaim any import VAT, you can reclaim any VAT on purchases made locally in Germany. You'll just need to make sure that you have your invoices or your import documents, and all of this can be reclaimed or offset against the VAT that you've collected on that monthly basis. So when we look at the two different types of returns, we have a local VAT return and an OSS return. So this is specifically going to be looking for non-EU businesses. So we want to split out what's actually going to be put on each of these returns if you have them. So in the case of a local VAT return, you're going to declare all sales made on a marketplace, any sales made domestically B2C on your own website, as well as any B2B transactions, whether that's domestic or cross-border, and any VAT reclaims that you want to make. All of that's going to go on your local VAT return. Your OSS return is there to declare a single type of transaction, and that transaction is going to be sales made on your own website, cross-border, intra-EU, B2C. So this could be maybe goods that are stored in Germany, but you're selling goods to a customer in France. That is going to go on the OSS return if you have your own website. Okay. If you're just selling on Amazon and you're a non-EU seller, then of course the OSS return is not required at this time. But if you sell on both platforms, you'll need to consider the OSS return as well, so that you make sure that you're declaring all of your transactions appropriately. Okay, so now we're going to wrap all of this up into some simple case studies to really kind of hammer home some of the knowledge from today's session. So first off, we have a Canadian-based company using FBA in Germany, and they're selling on Amazon and their own website. So first off, this company is importing into Germany and fulfilling from Germany, and so they're going to require a German VAT number. Secondly, the Canadian business will need to get a German OSS number, and the reason for this is because they're selling on their own website. They're going to charge VAT on their product prices for both Amazon and their own website. And Amazon is going to collect and remit the VAT to the tax authorities for all of the Amazon transactions. For the sales made through their own website, the seller is going to collect this and remit this on both the local German return for the German sales to German customers, and then for any sales going cross-border within the EU from Germany to another member state, that's going to go on their local OSS return. So they're going to have two different returns that they'll have to declare the different VAT, and the Amazon sales are all going to be remitted by Amazon, and the seller will just record these as exempt of VAT on their local VAT return in Germany. If we look at our second case study here, we are looking at a business based in Singapore. So this Singaporean company decide that they want to use Amazon Pan EU, and they're choosing to hold their inventory not only in Germany, but also in France, Italy, and Spain. So this Singapore company is going to need to get VAT registered in all 4 countries to make sure that they can declare any of those sales made to the marketplace. Amazon is going to keep the VAT after the sales are made and remit this to each of the individual tax authorities that where the sales were made. And then the seller is going to declare each of these sales on the local VAT returns exempt of VAT to the marketplace. So if it's a German sale, it's going to be declared on the German VAT. If it's coming from France, it's going to be declared on the French VAT. So all of these transactions still need to be declared, even though the seller is not actually exchanging any money. That's all being done from Amazon. Now, the other thing that's important is that the seller can reclaim the import VAT or any input VAT on purchases made locally. So this needs to be done in the country that that they are either importing into. So if they're importing into France, they'll need to reclaim that in France. Similarly, if they're importing into Germany, you reclaim that in Germany. So it all depends on the country that you're importing into. And similarly, if you're making any purchases, it's going to depend on where those purchases happened within the EU as well. So I'm hoping those two cases kind of summarize the different responsibilities of the seller looking to sell on Amazon. And it depends on, again, so many variations there of depending on where your goods are held, where you're dispatching from, and where you are established as well. That all determines the different VAT uh, uh, responsibility and collection processes and remittance processes to the tax authorities. But if you do have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to me or my team here to help at simplyvat.com, or leave a comment below in the question section and I'm happy to answer. Or Lisa, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that now as well.
Thank you so much, Alex, for the overview about everything we need to know about German VAT and how to be compliant. For sure, I feel that VAT and taxes are something sellers should want to get right. So working together with the professional is definitely the right thing to do. So I wanted to ask, how does it usually look like when a seller approaches you and kind of wants to onboard to your service? Like, how fast are you able to take over a business like this, and how usually this collaboration looks like overall?
Yeah, of course. Great question. So the first thing to do is you'll speak to one of the team members in the sales team, and we really want to make sure that we are getting you registered for the right products. So we don't want to sit there and lead you down a path where you are getting registered in multiple countries where you don't really need to. So first off, we want to understand your business, what you're doing, and then make sure you get registered in the right countries. Once we've decided that, you're going to move on to our onboarding team, and our onboarding team is really there to help facilitate the registration process. Now, our onboarding team works as quickly as you do. So we need your company documents. We need to understand, your business setup. So we need to understand. We need you to provide us that information so that we can compile the registration documents, translate those, and get those sent off to the tax authorities. So that on average, it depends on how quickly you can get it. That can take, anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how long the seller takes to compile that information. But again, it can be much quicker if you have that information ready to go. Then, of course, it gets sent off to the tax authorities. During that period, if you need any backdated returns done, sometimes sellers have already been trading and they didn't have a VAT number. In those cases, we need to go backwards. And during that registration period, that's where we're looking at the backdated returns and making sure that we get those up to speed so that as your registration comes through, we can submit those and then help sort out anything from the tax authorities from there. So that's kind of what the registration process looks like. And yeah, I'm hoping that helps clarify it.
Yeah, very good. And as you said, all of the information is in the description down below. And if you have any questions for Alex regarding to the German VAT or requirements, then leave them as comments under this video, and we can invite Alex back to this video to answer those as well. So thanks again for putting together this useful information for our viewers, and I do hope to see you soon again on our Orange Klik YouTube channel.
Thanks for having me.
I hope this video will help you to navigate complex VAT requirements more easily. Contact Alex and their team at SimplyVAT if you need further help to ensure to stay compliant with tax VAT obligations. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to click like and subscribe buttons below this player. And now I recommend you to watch another video where Alex explains what VAT requirements you need to be aware of when selling in Amazon UK. So check this out.